Welcome back, everybody. For today's deep dive, we're going to be looking at how some folks on the far right of X,
Yeah.
primarily Twitter, are using fictional media, like movies, to shape their understanding of the world around them. You ever heard
Interest.
of this thing called predictive programming?
Oh, yeah. It's basically this conspiracy theory that suggests that powerful elites embed hidden messages, and symbols
Yeah.
in movies and TV to kind of subtly prepare the public for like some big event that they have planned.
So they think Hollywood is like controlled by these puppet masters,
Yeah.
dropping hints about their like nefarious plans.
Exactly. And it's taken root in a lot of online communities. We're going to look at two recent movies that have sparked some interesting interpretations. First, the Netflix thriller Leave the World Behind.
Ooh, sounds creepy. What's that one about?
It follows two families who are forced to shelter together during a mysterious blackout. There's hints of cyber attacks and societal collapse and a whole lot of paranoia. And wouldn't you know it, a giant tanker ship runs aground in the harbor.
Whoa. Hold on. That sounds a little too real after. That ship collision in Baltimore.
Yeah, that's what a lot of X-users are latching onto. They're drawing parallels between the fictional shipwreck and that MV Dolly colliding with the Key Bridge.
Yeah.
So even pointing to specific details in the movie, like
Okay.
the fictional ship being named White Lion and connecting that to the Sri Lankan flag, which has a lion on it.
So they're like
Yeah.
taking these coincidences and weaving them into this larger narrative of like predictive programming.
Exactly. They see these insignificant details as like proof that the movie was foreshadowing the real life event. Like they're looking for confirmation of their beliefs in these fictional narratives.
Okay. I get the whole symbolism thing. But how does a movie predict a ship collision? Wouldn't that be like impossible?
Well, predictive programming relies on like vagueness and interpretation. It's not about literal predictions,
Yeah.
creating a sense of unease, a feeling that something bad is coming. Then when something does happen, even if it's unrelated, it can be like retroactively fitted into the narrative.
That's kind of sneaky. Playing on people's fears and anxieties.
Yeah, it can be. And this fear of the unknown, of losing control, it's a powerful motivator for some people. It can lead them to seek answers in places where there may be none.
So let's move on to the second movie on our list, Civil War. I mean,
Yeah.
the title alone is enough to raise some eyebrows.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an A24 film set in a dystopian America where journalists are hunted and an authoritarian president is in power. Unsurprisingly, some X-users are interpreting it as like a direct warning about an impending second American Civil War.
And I know things have been pretty tense politically,
Yeah.
especially since January 6th.
Yeah.
But a movie predicting a civil war, that seems like a stretch.
It does. But remember, we're talking about people who are already predisposed to believing in conspiracy theories. They see the world through a particular lens, and this movie just fits neatly into their existing anxieties about, like, political instability and societal collapse.
But they actually claiming that the filmmakers are intentionally trying to incite violence.
Some are. One X-user even called the film a psychological warfare tool designed to sow chaos and division. They're convinced it's all part of this larger plan to destabilize the country.
Whoa, that's a pretty heavy accusation.
Yeah.
But isn't it dangerous to believe that a movie can actually trigger a civil war?
It is. That's the self-fulfilling prophecy aspect of this kind of thinking. If enough people believe something is inevitable, it can actually make it more likely to happen.
So by constantly talking about a civil war
Yeah.
and interpreting everything through that lens, they're potentially contributing to the very thing they fear.
Exactly. They're creating this feedback loop of fear and paranoia, which can have real-world consequences.
It's crazy how both of those movies, Leave the World Behind and Civil War, tap into this fear of the unknown. But you know what I think is even weirder than a movie about a second American Civil War? This whole pure blood movement I keep seeing.
No, yeah.
It's like they're trying to create their own little magical society or something.
Yeah.
Where does this whole pure blood idea even come from?
The term itself, it comes from Harry Potter. You remember the purebloods?
Yeah.
The wizarding families who claim to have no Muggle ancestors?
Oh, yeah, like the Malfoys. They were all about keeping their bloodline pure. But how did this term go from, like, a fictional world of wizards to real-life discussions about vaccines?
It started as like this ironic joke within online communities,
Yeah.
especially those who are skeptical of the COVID-19 vaccines. But then certain factions on the far right, particularly those prone to conspiracy theories, they latched onto it and gave it this whole new meaning.
So they're basically saying that people who didn't get the COVID-19 vaccine are like the purebloods.
Exactly. It's a way of creating a sense of superiority,
Hmm.
of belonging to this special group. They see themselves as having made the right choice, the natural choice, and see those who got vaccinated as somehow compromised.
It's almost like they're creating a new caste system based on vaccination status. Like,
Yeah?
it reminds me of when Novak Djokovic refused the COVID vaccine and was celebrated by these groups, not even for his tennis skills, but for his pureblood status.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of how this term has been weaponized to create a sense of identity and community.
Mhm.
It's not even just about rejecting vaccines. It's about aligning yourself with a particular ideology and signaling your membership to a group of like-minded people.
Okay, but how extreme are we talking here? It's one thing to have personal beliefs,
Hmm.
but does this pure blood ideology actually translate into real-world actions?
Oh, absolutely. We've seen pure-blood advocates pushing for things like separate blood banks. They claim that vaccinated blood is like contaminated and that they need to protect their own pure bloodline.
Whoa, hold on. Isn't that incredibly dangerous? That sounds like it's bordering on eugenics.
You're right to be concerned. There are some very clear historical parallels that are quite troubling.
And it's not just about blood banks. I've come across some pretty bizarre theories online, like this whole thing about the Rh factor in blood.
The Rh factor conspiracy. Yeah, that's a popular one.
I've seen this. Ex-user, the White Rabbit podcast, spreading this weird theory, connecting the Rh factor to the COVID vaccines. Remind me what the Rh factor is again. It's something to do with blood type.
Right. It's a protein found on the surface of red blood cells. Most people are Rh positive, meaning they have the protein, but a smaller percentage are Rh negative, meaning they don't have it. It's totally normal, and it doesn't actually affect your health in any significant way.
So what's this White Rabbit person saying about the Rh factor in vaccines?
They're suggesting that the COVID vaccines somehow alter people's blood, turning those with Rh negative blood into Rh positive.
Oh.
And get this, they link this to ape blood, equating the Rh antigen in humans with that found in rhesus macaque monkeys.
Ape blood?
Woo!
Seriously?
It's a way of dehumanizing people who got vaccinated, suggesting that they've been contaminated with something foreign and unnatural.
That's messed up. And it seems like this White Rabbit person is going even further than just spreading misinformation about vaccines. I noticed that their X handle includes the number 88, which I know has some pretty dark connotations.
You're right to be wary. The number 88 is often used as a code by neo-Nazis.
Oh, wow.
H being the 8th letter of the alphabet, 88 stands for Hail Hitler.
So we're not just talking about anti-vaccine sentiment here. This is like conspiracy theories, far-right ideology, and potentially dangerous rhetoric, all wrapped up in this pure blood movement.
It's a toxic combination, and it's gaining traction online. And it's concerning because it's not just about spreading misinformation, it's about shaping people's worldviews, their identities, their understanding of themselves and others.
Okay, so we've gone from these movies supposedly predicting real-world events to this pure blood movement with like disturbing echoes of eugenics, and it's all playing out online. With like a lot of fear and distrust. What does this all mean? Like,
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack. But I think it points to some worrying trends that are emerging in our digital age. Like first, it erodes trust in authority. When people are constantly bombarded with conspiracy theories and misinformation, it becomes harder for them to tell what's true and what's not. They start to doubt everything, from government institutions to like scientific experts to the media.
it's like they've lost faith in the systems that are supposed to like inform and protect them.
Right. And this leads to the second risk, which is this undermining of media literacy. When you're constantly looking for hidden agendas and secret meanings, it's hard to evaluate information critically. You're more likely to fall for propaganda and manipulation because you're not really engaging with the content in a discerning way.
Yeah, it's like they've traded critical thinking for confirmation bias. They're only seeking out information that like reinforces their existing beliefs, even if those beliefs are based on
Right.
flimsy evidence or
Right.
falsehoods.
Exactly. And this can lead to a third risk, which is the normalization of violence. Like if you believe a civil war is inevitable or that certain groups of people are dangerous because of their blood or their vaccination status, it creates this climate where violence seems acceptable, even necessary.
It's like they're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. By constantly talking about violence and interpreting everything through that lens, they're making it more likely to happen.
Exactly. That's the danger of this kind of thinking. It can spiral out of control and have real-world consequences.
So what can we do about it? Is there any way to combat this
Yeah.
rising tide of conspiracy thinking and misinformation?
It's a complex challenge, but I think there's a few things we can do. Education is key. We need to equip people with the tools to, navigate the digital landscape critically and responsibly. Think about it. We teach kids about stranger danger and how to cross the street safely. We need to be just as diligent about teaching them digital literacy skills, how to evaluate sources, how to identify misinformation, and how to think for themselves.
It's like
Yeah,
giving them a mental toolkit to defend themselves against online manipulation.
exactly. And it's not just about individual responsibility. Tech companies need to step up, too. They need to do more to combat the spread of harmful content on their platforms. They can improve their algorithms to flag misinformation, work with fact-checking organizations, and promote credible sources of information.
So what about those of us who are already aware of these issues? What can we do in our own lives to, push back against this?
We can start by having open and honest conversations with people in our lives who might be susceptible to these ideas. I'm not saying to lecture them or get into heated arguments, but express your concerns, share credible sources of information, and encourage them to think critically about what they're seeing online.
It's about planting seeds of doubt,
Right.
encouraging them to question what they see and hear, and not just blindly accept everything at face value.
Right. And we can also support organizations that are working to combat misinformation and promote media literacy. There are some great groups out there doing important work.
So it's like a multi-pronged approach. Education, tech intervention, individual responsibility, and community support to effectively address this. It's not going to be easy,
Yeah.
but it's a fight worth having.
Absolutely. The stakes are too high to ignore this. We're talking about the health of our democracy, the stability of our society, and the well-being of our communities.
Well, this has been a truly eye-opening deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
And at all our listeners out there, next time you're scrolling through your social media feed or watching a movie, ask yourself, am I seeing this clearly? Or am I being influenced by forces I don't fully understand?
That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in.